IB Nation, welcome back to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Today is a special edition show. We are joined by the head coach of the Notre Dame women's softball team, Deanna Gump. You see her right there, and we are ready to take part in her Strikeout Cancer fundraiser. Today is going to be a lot of fun. Coach, I first wanted to thank you for making sure all those games got rained out this week, so you were prepared for today's show and ready to go for today's show. Thank you for being with us.
Gotta love South Bend weather this week. It's just like, woo, here we go.
Yeah.
It actually worked out pretty well, though. So I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me. I'm super excited to spend the next few minutes with you and talking softball and Strikeout Cancer.
It's going to be fun. I told my wife on Monday, I said, hey, let's go to the Michigan-Notre Dame game on Wednesday. And she's like, I love it. She loves watching Michigan lose. So, and I was like, well, sorry, honey, the game's already been canceled. She's like, the game for tomorrow? I was like, yep, it's already been canceled.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's going to be one of those
shot.
weeks. That's going to be one of those weeks. Well, Coach, we're going to talk about your team. You already have another 20-win team. I don't need to remind people that Coach Gump is the all-time winningest coach at Notre Dame, and she passed Coach McGraw last year, soon after you came on this show, which was pretty exciting, Coach. So congratulations on that. Another season in the postseason, but you have a much, much different looking team this year. We're going to talk about that. But first, Coach, I want to talk about really the big reason why you're here with us today and why this week matters so much for you and just the cause that you guys have. So, Coach, why don't we kick off with you sharing with everyone, what this is all about and also where it came from and why.
Well, this is a humongous weekend for Notre Dame softball. It's something that we have done for the last 13 years. Because 14 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And it changed my life. It changed her life. It was the scariest time for us as parents and as a family. And we had people who rallied around us from Notre Dame and really helped us get through a 2.5-year battle with cancer for her. And it changes you. It changes who you are. It changes, perspective on life and on everything. And since that time, we've worked really hard on making sure that we use, what we can do to help other families who are dealing with their children who are fighting cancer in our area.
Sorry, this is one of those things sometimes that we do. We have a symbol when you're not talking. One of us goes like this, and I'm like, Coach, come on, give me the signal. I'm muted myself. Obviously, Coach, there's all types of fundraisers that go towards cancer research, and obviously we all want to have that day where, hey, we found the cure for it. But you got to see a different side of it with your daughter, which is the day-to-day of families that have to go through this. And I think that's one of the really unique things about the money you raise is it's not just for cancer research. It's a very direct, impactful cause. And so if you could just kind of share with us, and, when we talk about the home run derby this weekend and the donations and all this, it's not just to, raise money for cancer research. It's also to say, hey, we're going to be there for the families that are either going through it or that don't know they're going to go through it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the unique things. If you could kind of share what the specific help that you guys provide are, which is so important.
Yes. So our money actually doesn't go to research at all. We believe that there are some great organizations and foundations who are giving straight to the research side of things. Our dollars go straight to the families of the children who are fighting and to the children who are fighting. We use a local foundation called the Samantha Hickey Foundation. A friend of ours lost their daughter to leukemia years ago. And they began this foundation, and we use the foundation to basically funnel the money to the families and to those children directly. So every dollar that we raise goes to the families and the children who are actually fighting every single day. We have done so many things with the money. Every kid, we make sure that every kid who is fighting cancer in this community has an extra special Christmas. So our team goes Christmas shopping every December to make sure that they get spoiled rotten. We have sent kids to camp. We've sent kids on wish trips. We give kids gas cards who have to maybe go get treatment down in Indy or further for radiation. So we're paying for hotels, we're paying for gas, we're paying for food. We started actually a kind of a food bank in the hospital where the families who are being treated go into this room and there's groceries and they just choose whatever they need or whatever they need at that time. They just take what they need, and no questions asked, and they have food, hopefully, to help them that week. So we're doing everything we can just to take the burden off of the families a little bit and to actually make those kids' days a little bit better.
Coach, when you guys went through this as a family, what did it mean to you guys to know that there was that support system out there, and why it's so, because I want people to understand why it matters so much, because you're going through this battle. You don't know how it's going to end. You don't know what's next for yourself or for especially for you, a child. I couldn't, it's your job to protect, and there's nothing you can do. What did it mean for you and your husband to have that support system and have people out there that are doing things like this to say, hey, we're there with you through this. You're not alone.
Yeah, and honestly, like, we were so lucky. We were the lucky ones. During treatment, we had health insurance. During treatment, we had the Notre Dame community reaching out constantly to help us along the way. But we were, and Tatum beat it. My daughter beat it. And so just knowing the impact that people it was simple as like getting her a stuffed animal. Like, it sounds so silly, but it changed her day, and when they would go to the hospital and there was just something special waiting for her, as simple as like an ice cream. Like, it sounds crazy, but when you put a smile on a face of a child who is battling cancer, it's the best feeling in the whole world, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't know how they're going to react to this drug. You don't know the side effects. You don't know, the roadmap ahead, and you just keep praying that it turns out okay, but you don't know. And boy, when I saw that smile on my daughter's face every single day, it saved me. So that's all I want to do, is put smiles on those kids' faces and just help the burden of the parents. And because there are families who don't have health insurance, there are family, and their children have cancer. There's nothing they can do about it. And that's what this is all about, is just helping whoever we can help make their days a little easier and a little bit better. So personally, I was the lucky one. But it was the hardest 2 years of our lives.
So just so everybody knows kind of what we're doing today. So we obviously have two forms of ways that we're trying to help Coach Gump's fundraiser. Number one is I provided a link in the chat, and it's also in the description, that you can go give directly. That is the preferred method, because they don't have, Google's not taking out almost 50% of what you give. Yeah. And so if you give a direct to there, I actually have your donor list open. I've seen that some of our people have already given $25 and different things. Throw in a question that we'll bring up either for me during the football section or for Coach Gump. But if you also want to give directly through Super Chat, you can do that as well. And every dime that we raise through Super Chats, we will also donate on behalf of IB Nation. So there's lots of different ways you all can help, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible to get this going. And obviously, Coach, so you can give direct links. There's things going on this weekend. Obviously, you guys are going to have a big game this weekend against Virginia, which we'll get into here a little bit, because the Cavaliers are a good squad. Being a native of the Commonwealth, I'm very intrigued about that game coming up this weekend. You will have a trivia night and silent auction Saturday evening at the South Bend Cubs training facility. Following the game on Sunday, the team is hosting a home run derby for fans, and I know Coach Freeman went yard in last year's, I believe.
Yes,
correct? He did. To participate, fans can pay $5 cash for 5 swings or $10 for 10 swings if paying by card. And as we mentioned, all the money raised this weekend goes to benefit the Harper Cancer Research Institute and the Samantha Hickey Memorial Foundation. So those are the different things that we're all doing. As you mentioned before, Coach, and this is something that you guys thankfully have provided for us, but all the money used goes to help pay for lodging for a family while a child undergoes chemotherapy treatment, sending children on wish trips, purchasing a therapy dog for a child, or funding a playroom at Beacon Children's Hospital. The funds are used directly to impact the children and their families in a real, tangible way. So that is what we're doing. So, folks, we just looking for all the help that you guys give. As I said, if you give in directly, I know Nathan Milton already did, and some others have, go ahead and throw your questions in there, and we will bring those up as well. We did have a couple Super Chats, Coach, before we get started. We had one from Tommy Guns. Thank you very much, Tommy. Appreciate you. Tommy has young daughters Tommy's a baseball guy, obviously. He has some young daughters that are getting to that age where it's okay. It's time to start playing sports. And so he wanted to know, if you could kind of help him understand what some of the differences are between baseball, which you obviously know very well with your husband and your son now as a starter on the Notre Dame men's baseball team, and softball for someone who is looking to, maybe get his daughters involved in the game.
I love that he wants to get his daughters involved in softball. And the best advice I could give Tommy is to train them like they were his sons, because athletes are athletes and they need to know the great fundamentals of our sport. And the positive thing is that baseball fundamentals and softball fundamentals are pretty similar, except for the pitching mound. And we can get into pitching another time, but except for pitching, the fundamentals are the same. And I would say treat them like athletes and treat them and teach them the game.
My sister and I were both pitchers. So I was a pitcher and a shortstop. My sister was a pitcher and a shortstop, and very, very different things. And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, my dad could easily teach me how to pitch because that's what he knew. But with my sister, but like as you mentioned, coaching, my sister was a head coach at Cape Henry for a softball team when she was younger. That's where she played high school ball in Virginia Beach. So I helped her one spring, and you're right. There's so many things that are just the same, bunting technique, fielding technique, throwing technique. The dimensions of the field are different, but so much of that was just, hey, this is what I know, and this is what I can help teach. And so, Coach, I appreciate that advice as well. We also had a super chat from Father David Penny. He said, thank you for the Strikeout Cancer fundraiser. I lost my mother to cancer, and so I'm thankful for your work. Sorry, I can only donate in Canadian funds, so only be about $1.50, but best of luck on the season, Coach. Go Irish. It's a lot more than that, David. We appreciate you.
That's
Appreciate
awesome.
you very much.
Thank you.
Shaquille Oatmeal. So, Coach, we have fans all over the world. So this is the cool part. Father David's in Canada. Shaquille Oatmeal is in Spain. And he said, I kicked cancer in the cojones last year. Happy to join today's show and interview with Coach Gumpf and support a great cause with the Strikeout Cancer fundraiser. Thanks for doing this show. We have a very unique group of folks,
That's
Coach.
awesome.
And then Homer TD just gave $10. So we appreciate you very, very much. Well, Coach, as we mentioned, last year, one of the things we talked about, you were looking for just yet another. I think what's your streak now? Your team making the NCAA tournament? I think you're over 20 straight years, correct?
Yeah, well, every year I've been here, we've made it except for COVID because we didn't have it.
Right.
But I'm on my 23rd season, and so I just go off of that, and I love it. We'll try to keep battling away. We'll see what happens.
Well, the interesting thing, I remember talking last year, we talked about, I was impressed by just how powerful your team was. I mean, you guys were bombers last year. Looking at this year, very different squad, Coach. Let's just kind of dive into overall just a little bit about, your 2024 team, which it's a nice mix of veterans. I know you have a sophomore pitcher, junior pitcher, you have a freshman starting for you this year. So, when you think of what your squad is, how you could describe your team to fans, what would be the way that you would first dive into that and say, hey, this is what my team is about this year?
Oh, I think we're balanced. And to your point, last year we had a lot of power hitting hitters. And I think it took us some time this year to figure out what is our identity, what works for us. And I think that, it takes time for the girls to understand what we need to do to win ball games, because we have to win them a little bit differently this year than we did last year versus the year before that. Right. So every year is such a different team. And you think you know what you have when you start the season, but it never plays out quite like you think it does. And so this season, what we've realized is we need great defense. That's our number one priority, because we're not hitting the long ball like we used to. But what we do really well is when we are working together offensively, meaning get on, move them, like old school sequencing, softball, baseball, that's when we're really successful because our team works really well together. But the biggest difference, I think, from last year to this year is the fact that our defense is so much better, and that's our biggest strength. And we'll find ways to score runs. We always do. Our pitching has given us a great opportunity to stay in all the ball games. So now it's like we play defense. That's how we win ball games.
Well, you talk about your pitching, Coach, and I know you guys are taking a little bit of a different approach to kind of how you handle the mound this year. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we're using a lot more arms, which I love. And it's weird because I've been so lucky in my career because we've always had one or two that we can, you just throw them. And this year, it's been super cool because different people are stepping up, and we've been throwing really consistently 4 pitchers. One's throwing less innings, but throwing her out there a lot. She's our freshman, Cami Kamzik. And I like to just give her little views because I think every time she gets out there, she gets a little bit better. But we've really focused on our sophomore and our junior and our transfer, our graduate transfer, who she has another year with us too. So we're all learning, which combination works best and who goes for who. And when you have multiple pitchers, it's awesome, but we also have to figure out how to use them to the best of their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So as it's going, we're getting better and better.
Well, Coach, you talked about how your team has improved, and
Mm-hmm.
there's very clear evidence of that. You started the season off actually 8-8,
Mm-hmm.
and then you guys went down and played in the Marshall March Madness, and that kind of sparked you guys. I think you won 4 out of 5 in that tournament,
Yeah.
and that's kind of sparked you guys. You're now 13-4 since that 8-8 start. You're up to 21-12.
Mm-hmm.
Got a big series actually, Friday, Saturday, Sunday series against Virginia this year. I believe the Cavaliers are 24-10 coming into this. I think they're a couple spots ahead of you right now in ACC standings. So just talk about what was it that kind of started to click for your team after that 8-8 start that allowed you guys to go on this run that we've seen you go on, including I think a sweep of NC State recently and really get you guys rolling.
Yeah, I think the biggest change was really focusing on our strengths. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, it's what can we depend on? What do we know that that's going to be great for us? And then scratching whatever we have to do, scratch and claw to find ways to win. And we've done a better job of that. And I think the biggest difference is our team has realized like they have to work together. We have to work together as a team. And they've done a really, really good job of that. And I agree. Since that 8-8 start, we're battling as a team, and we're way more fun to watch. Let me tell you, like there's a lot more going on. They're making sure that we're being productive every single outing. And we're just, like I said, we just keep getting better, and we know we can rely on areas of our game that it's going to be consistent. The defensively, for sure, like that is going to be our strength. Pitching, I think our pitching staff has done a great job of kind of just honing in on what really matters. Find a way to get outs, and it doesn't have to be a strikeout. You just find ways to get the hitter to do what you want them to do, whether it's a pop-up or ground ball. We don't need swings and misses all the time. That, to me, that's a bonus. So just finding little ways to get a little bit better, and I think we've done a good job of that.
Well, I grew up in an era of baseball. I'm in my 40s now. I grew up in an era of baseball where it was about manufacturing runs. All right,
Yeah.
I grew up playing the game before the 90s. Chicks dig the long ball era. If you remember those commercials. But so it is fun to kind of see how you guys have gone from one. I mean, there's always a manufacturing runs that
Right.
was always an aspect to your team, but you could rely on, like you said, some of your bombers.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of fun to watch that there's so much more of the strategy of game becomes even more apparent. It's always there, becomes so much more apparent when watching your team this year. And that's got to be kind of fun for you as a coach, I would imagine too. Just a different kind of fun for as a coach. It's like, okay, it's so much more about that strategy and getting those outs. And, we got to play this way. I'm sure that's been a fun challenge for you. And I know you've had other years in the past, but just to see that such a big dichotomy for football fans, it's like going from running, a team that has, hitting 50-yard bombs every other play one year, and then the next year you're running a triple option and grounding and pounding it. But you got to play a different game, right? But you got to the expectation is the same. It's the standard is still the standard. Hey, we're going to win 20 plus games, get to the NCAA tournament, and try to win a championship. That doesn't change because we lost this player and our team is different.
No, we do look different, but I think we look better because I think we found different ways to win ball games. And I think defense is so important, not just in softball. I think it's very important in football too. I think it's the most important part of football. But I do believe that we are a different team because we can play defense. And it's special. And I love to rely on that because now we know, listen, if we're going to play defense great all the time, then all we need is one of the other parts of the game to be great, either our pitching or our hitting. We only need one other place and then we win. So if we get 2 out of 3 of those things happening that day, we win the game.
Now, Coach, when you were putting this team together, did you know that this was going to be the transition, or was it kind of once you got into camp or once you got into the fall, like you guys have like fall practices and things like that? Was it kind of then as you saw your team come together? Did you have a sense that it was going to be that way as you were putting the roster together in the off season? You got to good freshman class coming in. I know you have a pitcher that's a freshman that pitches. You've got a starter in the
Yes, infield,
infielder, right? Yes,
second base.
that's a freshman. Like,
Mhm.
when did it say, okay, this is how we're going to be, or was it a kind of an evolution as you were putting this team together throughout the last year?
I knew we were going to be different, but it's always an evolution. And you think you know what you have going in, but then you're in it, and then you're going off of the strengths that make sense. And that's it's kind of a two part. I knew it was going to be different, but after playing, I'm like, okay, this is who we are.
Mhm.
Let's be the greatest at this, and that's how we're approaching it.
Well, Coach, this weekend you have Virginia, and we have Monica Dupre said that she's so excited. She's bringing her daughter for her first Notre Dame softball game this weekend. So, Monica, that'll be great. So, let's talk about the matchup this weekend
Yeah.
with the Cavaliers, Coach. Obviously, two teams that are trying to climb their way towards the top. Obviously, you got Florida State's a team y'all are chasing. Virginia Tech, Duke are all teams you're chasing. These are two teams that are kind of in that pursuit. Coach, let's talk about the matchup this weekend.
Yeah, I think we match up really well with Virginia. They can tell you they live and die on their pitching staff. So they're pitching heavy. They have some of the best pitchers in the country throwing for them. We have to find a way to get to their pitchers because that's their game. They'll scratch and claw some runs as well, but they are 100% pitching staff. So we know that we can make a lot of things happen offensively, and that's going to be our biggest challenge is attacking that pitching staff and making really our focus is hitting strikes because they work around the zone and they have a lot of movement. So they're going to try to get us to chase pitches. And if we're chasing pitches, they're doing their job. If we're not chasing pitches, it'll be a good day for the Irish.
Coach, where's your team at right now? It would seem to me that there's a confidence that's been growing with your team as you've kind of gone through this season. Have you had some leaders step up that have really, because like you said, you not only lost good players, but you lost captains, you lost some girls that had been like, I think 3 or 4. Your center fielder, wasn't she, I believe, a 3 or 4 year starter for you, right?
Yes.
How's that evolution been for your team as far as just the confidence in each other, but also in themselves and the leadership that's evolved with your team?
Right. No, it's funny. I'm super proud of the leaders on this team, but mainly because there was definitely a turning point, and it was when we were struggling a little bit, and it was around that Marshall weekend. And I know that we were on the road because we are early in the year. They had a team meeting without us, and I have no idea what was said or what was done. But since that moment, we played differently. We approached the game differently. There's more of a buzz, more of an energy with our team. And I credit it all to them because I wasn't part of that meeting. And the way that they have handled things and really just decided like, this is how it's going to be. I think it was at Georgia Tech now that I'm thinking about it. It was our second ACC series, and we ended up taking the next 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it was after the 7-5 loss?
Yeah.
I think you guys started about a 6-game run after that, right? That included the last 2 against Georgia Tech and then the sweep against NC State that next series.
Yeah, and that happened that night before we started. We're playing differently, and we're still playing. Now they're checking each other. Now they have these expectations because they know who they need to beat. And I love that because it was player driven, and that's when things are going pretty darn well for your team when the players are deciding who they want to be, and it's not coming from me.
Now, you got to obviously keep it rolling this weekend against Virginia Tech, and then I believe you guys have the Seminoles, coming up after that.
Yeah, we're headed to Florida State after that. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity. I mean, this weekend and next weekend, what a great opportunity to make some noise.
It's a great league. I mean, the ACC's got some really strong teams this year, so obviously you guys are going to have a chance. Absolutely. Coach, I did want to ask you too. We talked about this before the show. I have my sister has 4 kids. Her first child was a boy, and her next 3 were all girls. And so Layla, Allie, and Emma. Emma just started playing softball. She's the most adorable little 4-year-old you're ever going to see in your life. Layla's a 7th grader. Allie's a 4th grader, although she's as tall as Layla is right now. But they're all softball players. My sister was recruited to be a pitcher at Radford. Mm-hmm. And so obviously someday they're going to have to make the decision of, hey, I want to go do this at the next level.
Yeah.
What is advice that you have for parents who have daughters that love the game at a young age, and someday they want to get to that point. What's the advice you guys give on should they go to camp? Should they be part of travel teams? Obviously, play the game.
Mhm.
But what advice do you have for parents or young girls who say, hey, look, because obviously we look at football. I'm a football guy, right? That's what I played and that's what we cover. But, there's a lot of sports out there where if you want to go get a degree and you want to play this sport that you love, there's opportunities for you. What would you say to parents that have daughters like that, or to young ladies who do want to do that, as far as what they should do to continue to better their games and also get themselves out there to be recruited when that time comes?
Well, and like you said, the opportunities are endless for women in athletics. I mean, there's so many great opportunities, and even in softball for sure. I mean, and I can tell you this, the first thing I would say is, number one, again, teach them the way you would teach a male athlete, because I think that sometimes we worry like, oh, it's a little sweet, cute, like the cutest darn little girl you've ever seen in your life. Well, that little girl is a little stud, and
Yeah.
she has the same expectations as a boy her own age. So that's the number one. Number two, put them in a competitive environment, because the game is not easy, and failing at a young age isn't the worst thing ever. Now, you don't want them to fail all the time because you want them to love it and always love it. But understand, like, it's okay and it's not a big deal. And we just move on, because guess what? We all fail, but the faster we can move on, the better. And when we learn that early, it helps them rebound when they get older, in the game. I mean, I'll tell you that in softball and in baseball and probably every single other sport, the faster you move on, it moves so fast, right? You just had a bat, you struck out, but guess what? Now you got to go make a defensive play. So the faster you move on, the better. And know that it's not a big deal. It's striking out is just part of the game, and it is not a big deal. Or making an error, it happens. The best baseball players in the entire world. I mean, they look silly sometimes, and they're the best. So I think that competitive environment is so important. But also, with the best support system saying, I just love to watch you play.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to learn that as a mom. I had to learn how to stop coaching my kids and just be like, I just love to watch you play.
Yeah.
I don't really care what happens. And that's hard.
Yeah. I bet. Yes. Well, it's like my dad goes to my nieces and nephews' games, and he just kind of sits there and watches. My mom was like, why weren't you like this when I played? You know what I mean? Like, you were never this quiet when I played. Well, my oldest niece, Layla, who's a seventh grader now, she was pure about dancing when she was younger, like competitive dancing. And she was just the cutest little thing, and her little tutus and all that. And she got long, blonde hair. And the first time I saw my sister and my brother-in-law kind of getting on her, I was like, wait a minute, as Uncle Brian, I'm like, hold on a second. But she loves it. Like you said, she loves it. She wants to be pushed. She wants to be challenged. She wants to, hey, if this is what you want to do, then we're going to push you and encourage you to do that. When it was dance, they pushed her and encouraged her to be the best she could be at that. But I got to admit, I was like, softball? That's the sport she's going to play now after dancing her whole life? And she loves it. She's a lefty, and then my niece Allie's about a foot taller than everybody in her grade. So she's had people say, like, are you sure you're a fourth grader? But they love it. And I mean, my sister didn't push it on them. That was her sport, but she didn't push it on them. But yeah, they've picked it up and they loved it. And it's I told you, shared the story, I was at a birthday party of a family member, and my niece Layla sitting there, and she can't take her eyes off the Oklahoma-Tennessee game that's on ESPN, because again, that's the opportunity for your girls. You guys are on TV. There are games on ESPN. Your tournament is on ESPN. So if it's a sport you love, there's an opportunity for you to go on and play it at the next level and continue doing it.
Well, you know what I love? That the little ones watch us play on TV, and we're on all the time. And really, you can find us all the time if you just have Apple, because on the network, we're all linear, and we're getting on everywhere. But I just love, they're learning the game. Not just, are they just not watching like these great women athletes, they're learning how to play at the most competitive level. And I think that's what a great learning opportunity. And they're watching awesome women playing an awesome sport. I think that's sport in the whole world.
Well, because like as growing up being a football and a baseball player, I always got a chance to see my heroes play. Right. There was always something to look up to. There was NFL, college football. And, my sister didn't have that when she was growing up in the 90s, like there is now. So it's really cool that they have those heroes to look up to, and they have this support to say, hey, look, that's the game being played at the highest level.
Mhm.
I want to be on TV someday getting to play softball. I
I
think
wanna do that. How
yeah,
cool is that?
exactly. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Coach, we got a couple more super chats coming in. YG, Y Town, ND fan
Wow,
with the super chat. Thank you so much. Just great work. Keep it up. Love what you're doing. We absolutely love what you're doing, Coach.
thank you.
Ryan Randolph says with a super chat. Thank you, Ryan. Cancer stinks. I lost my mother to cancer. Coach and her staff are the best. Best of luck this season. Go Irish.
Thank you. That's so cool.
Yeah, Christopher Hardy. And this is the thing, Coach. We've said, look, I don't know anyone that hasn't been touched by cancer in some
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you guys are doing is because it's more personal to me. It's not okay. We raised $46,000, which you guys are past that now, and we give it to some research center that's doing wonderful work. But
Yeah.
it's okay. It's just out there. We know it's being done, but your money is directly going to make an impact on the day-to-day lives of people, and that's so important because as we see, we've lost someone. Someone in our chat has beaten cancer. Someone in our chat lost their mother to cancer. Christopher Hardy with a super chat lost his dad to cancer in 2019. He's happy to donate Striking Out Cancer. Let's kick down the door to both the Super Regionals and Women's College World Series in the same year,
I am in.
2024.
Let's
So
make it happen.
there you go.
And
Well,
thank
one thing people can do, Coach, is they can come out to see you guys play at Melissac Stadium, and that includes this weekend against the Cavaliers. So big weekend, Coach. What time do you guys play this weekend? How can people learn more about your team? We're going to do our best to promote this cause, but we also want to create fans of this. Hey, guys, Notre Dame's not just a football school,
Nope.
right? It's not just a women's This is the all-time winning coach at Notre Dame right here, everybody. It's not Marcus Freeman or Coach McGraw, who are great. Coach McGraw is a legend. But this is the all-time winning coach right here, Coach. So why don't you let people know where they can learn more about your team and how they can come out this weekend to watch you guys play against the Cavaliers?
Yeah, we're going to be playing this weekend, Friday night at 5, Saturday at 1, and Sunday at noon. And gosh, just jump online, go to Notre Dame softball, and you'll find us, and you can find everything out about us. Gosh, Twitter, like follow me, follow Notre Dame softball on Twitter, Instagram. We are, we're in it. We're in it 100%, and we're going to do everything we can to help all these families who are fighting cancer and these children who are battling every single day, and beat the snot out of Virginia this weekend.
Well, Coach, I also put your guys' official schedule in the chat below because it actually has links to how you can watch the team play each week. So if you look at the university, it's actually now fightingirish.com. I got so used to saying UND.com, and it's not that anymore. If you go to fightingirish.com and you go to and I put the link in there, there's actually a link. So if you guys want to watch Coach's team play, you can click on that link. And even though it's going to get us demonetized, Coach, we're going to play the video. I decided we're going to play the video of so people can hear you and see your daughter and just kind of what this meant for you. Last question, though, Coach, because you are in a you and your husband are in a very unique situation this year because you're coaching your girls and you're trying to go out there. You're young women. You're trying to go out there and battle and get to the NCAA tournament again. But there's a young man that you know very well that's starting for the men's or for the baseball team a little bit. What's that been like for you? Because I know your son was on the team last year, but he's obviously got a much more prominent role this year. What's that been like for you as a mom, trying to balance that? Okay, I'm the head coach over here and I have these duties, but I'm also mom over here, and my son's playing for the Irish. What's that been like for you?
It's been the coolest experience. I mean, number one, he gets to go to Notre Dame. How lucky is he? I mean,
I wouldn't know. State school.
He's the luckiest kid in the whole world, and he's playing for great coaches. I'm so proud of him because he's battled, and he's having a great year this year. And so I'm so proud of him. I get over there every time I can. I've got to see him a couple times this year already. My husband is there all the time. He is super fan baseball. But gosh, I'm just so happy and so proud just to be his mom and see how he's just matured and really figured out what works for him. And it's just, it's all the process. It's figuring out how to be the best you can be when you need to be. And I'm just a super proud mom.
That's awesome, Coach. And we had another super chat from Tyler. long break. Coach, why, you always say I only got 30 minutes, but you always go longer, which we appreciate very much. I'll tell you this, Coach, obviously not only good luck this weekend, but I can't wait to have you back on again next year as we continue to talk just about this great cause you guys have. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday series against the University of Virginia Cavaliers, folks. We got to beat those. I'm from there. My parents still live there, Coach, but I'm fighting Irish now, so you got to go get that win this weekend. When Coach leaves, we're going to play the video that came out back when you're going to get a chance to be introduced to her daughter in that cause. But, Coach, again, I can't thank you enough for what you do. First of all, obviously, we love that you're on the show, but can't thank you enough for what you guys do and the heart that's behind what you guys do.
Well, thanks. And Brian, thank you so much for having me. I love talking with you, and I'm so thankful that you cover not just football, but us too. And I'm really appreciative, and you're awesome. And I appreciate you so much.
We have some other things in the works that I'm going to get with you about here,
Okay.
about maybe ramping that up a little bit moving forward, Coach. But
All right.
we'll talk about that later. We got some plans. I'll get with Dan. Maybe we'll connect here when your season's over with about some plans for the future. But Coach Gump, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Brian.
Well, guys, that is Coach Deanna Gumpf and her team. Really excited. It's really funny because I've been following the team last couple of years, and of course, when we had her on, I became even more interested in what they were doing. And this year got off to a rough start, but just to watch how that team has improved so much, and they're playing at a very high level, it's been fun to watch. But I did want to play something else for you all, and I want to play the video that of Coach Gump's, but regarding her daughter and really where her heart is with this whole thing, and why she does what she does, because she's not doing this. I mean, she's doing it as the softball coach at the University of Notre Dame, but she's doing this. Her heart for it is really as a mom who lived through this and who went through this with her own daughter. So we're going to play that here in this about 10-minute video. Definitely check this out. If you guys have questions and you want to get some super chats in to answer those questions, we'll talk football after this. If there's some super chats left, some of you guys that got chats in, some of you all that donated the other way. If you got some questions you want to get those in there, and we'll be rocking and rolling with that. But I'm going to play this video first of Coach Gump. So as always, when I start playing the video, if you guys can't hear it, just let me know and we'll get it squared away.
History. Notre Dame athletics has inspired men and women onward to victory in the game of life, often despite tremendous odds against them. These journeys have manifested themselves in a variety of physical, mental, and spiritual forms, but one element binds them together: persistence fueled by the spirit of Notre Dame. We will fight in every game, strong of heart and true to her name.
Tatum's like our little sister. She is a ball of fun. She is just always bouncing around, always talking to us. And before everything had happened, I realized, Tatum's so much fun. And the greatest part was that she stayed pretty much the same after. She was always out there trying to have fun and trying to hang out with us. And, it's just really cool to have that kind of relationship.
In the summer of 2010, Deanna Gumpf, head coach of Notre Dame's softball team, was thrown the biggest curveball of her life. Her 4-year-old daughter, Tatum, was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
The day was kind of crazy. I remember it's like yesterday. I kept Tatum with me because I knew she was a little bit off, and she'd kind of had that fever on and off. And she woke up that morning, and it looked like she had dried chocolate on her lips. And I was like, that is so, what were you doing last night, Tatum? She's like, nothing. I said, did you eat something? And she said, no. And I wiped it off with a tissue and got a washcloth and wiped it some more. And then I brushed her teeth. And when I brushed her teeth, her gums were just bleeding like crazy. And I thought, whoa, this is just weird. I called her doctor, her pediatrician, and I said, something's funny. Her gums are bleeding when I brush her teeth. And she woke up with blood on her mouth. And her pediatrician said, bring her in right away. And so we brought her in, and she just took a blood test, and then we left. And then I went back to the office.
She comes back about maybe an hour and a half later, and she has Tatum with her. And I remember this vividly. They brought in sushi, and they were going to eat lunch. And literally we were just in there, I was joking around with Tatum, and Got her sushi all set up, and Deanna's phone rings. Well, Deanna stepped out, went into Lizzie's office because Lizzie was out of town, and takes the phone call. And I can just hear, like, you just got that feeling that there was something wrong.
And she said, there's something wrong with Tatum. And I said, what? And she said, okay, it's one of two things and neither are good. And I said, okay. And she said, no matter what, you need to get down, you need to go to Memorial Hospital, you need to get her blood drawn again. And then from there, you're probably gonna be going to Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis. And I said, okay, well, what are these two things? Because I'm like, I need to know what's going on. And she said, well, it's either leukemia or aplastic anemia.
The doctor told Deanna to bring Tatum in right away. We need to do blood work. And after the results came, Deanna actually couldn't get a hold of me because I was in the chapel, just praying for help.
Went over to Memorial, met my husband over there. My sister drove me because I was kind of a mess. And he took the blood test again. And literally within 15 minutes, he said, okay, we think she has leukemia. You need to go down to Riley. And I don't remember that drive at all.
A lot of things going through my head, you know, a lot of prayers.
It was the worst feeling I'd ever felt in my life. When we got to Riley, it was close. It was a life and death situation because she had nothing to help her survive. And I think that's why the transfusions happened so quickly because she had nothing to fight anything off with. She had no immune system and she had hardly any hemoglobin left. So it was very critical at that moment.
Deanna and I both we want to figure it out and let's do what we got to do to get this fixed. I think Deanna absorbed more of it. She probably got a master's in leukemia in about 2 days. And while she was absorbing most of it, I was trying to stay with Tatum and just kind of keep her away from hearing certain things or just, you know, keep her busy.
With Deanna being a coach, it definitely helped her with the plan of attack for getting all the resources together. She had this huge binder of information that she used for reference whenever something would come up. I think that's similar to her coaching plan where she's got all of her information around her.
Being a coach, or if it's just me, or being a coach or what that is, it's absolutely how I do things. I need to know what it is, I need to know how to handle it, and I need to kind of make a plan of attack of how we're going to deal with it. Once I knew what we were dealing with and what, you know, acute lymphoblastic leukemia was, okay, so what do we need to do? I need to know the best scenario, the worst scenario, and everything in between, and then we just go. And that's kind of how we've been handling it over the last 2.5 years.
When Notre Dame's Strong of Heart continues, Tatum's recovery gains momentum with support from the Notre Dame community. Once past the initial shock of Tatum's diagnosis, Deanna realizes she and her family won't have to face this life-threatening disease alone.
The Notre Dame family reached out immediately and didn't stop. Truly, I don't think I could have handled it anywhere else. I believe, you know, things happen for weird reasons, and I'm so thankful that I work at Notre Dame when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. I can't imagine being somewhere else and not having the community that we have here. I can't remember a day that didn't go by that I didn't receive a message from somebody from Notre Dame for like the first month and a half. Just, are you okay? You know, what do you need? Tell us what you need. Everyone kept saying, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And all I needed was my daughter to get better.
We are all just so close here. I mean, I think that we just know each other and we just, you know, we can rely on each other. We're hard on each other. We're honest with each other. And, you know, these guys are here for me day in and day out. And, you know, I'm here for them as well.
They just crush these kids the first 28 days after they're diagnosed. And then depending on how they handle that first 28 days, they go one direction or the other. And she did great. I saw her physically getting better about 3 months later. she got some energy back and started dancing around again and becoming her again.
So like when I was at Riley, everyone was coming in, surprising me with balloons, and then they were all saying, I've been praying for you, and I hope you get done pretty soon.
The way that they beat the leukemic cells is they just crush their immune system so nothing grows. And so I didn't let her out of the house very often. I kind of kept her in our little bubble world. She came out for her leukemia game. We had a special game for kids with cancer.
The first Strikeout Cancer Day was so emotional because it was one of the first times, first of all, that Tatum had left the house in months. And just seeing her out there, and she was so excited to be out there, and you were just so happy for her. But at the same time, she was in uniform, but she didn't have her hair at that point. You still knew it was still kind of a smack in the face a little that this kid was battling.
She loved the attention. She had a great time out there. And I think the funniest thing was she would go into the stands and sell her autograph so she could donate that money to Memorial also. So she got up there and she said, do you want my autograph? Do you want my autograph? It's only 50 cents. She actually made about $35.
I remember putting the uniform on her that morning. It was great. And just bringing her out here to be a part of it, but to see her run around and stretch with the girls, and then throw out the first pitch was awesome.
When we walked out there together, I was just a mess. And just to watch her, to see her throw that out when there was a time where I didn't think I'd have her. It was pretty awesome. We had a huge party when she was done with treatment in September. So she finished her last treatment, and 2 weeks later we had a bash, the biggest party I've ever had. And all of our friends and family were there. It was just a big, huge orange party. And it was a blast. And then 2 months later, she was able to get her port out. And that it was a very scary day, because to think that she's getting her port out and it's really over is scary to me. It's almost too good to be true. So I have a hard time thinking that it's really done.
I think we're winning innings. There's a timeline, I think within 5 years or whatever, certain years. I don't know if even after that timeline will I say we won the game, but we're definitely winning innings. And I see us winning a lot more innings.
Coach never gives up, and once Coach has a goal on her mind or something that she wants to strive for, she will do everything in her power to see that that goal is reached. I think with Tatum, it's a perfect example of that. She wanted to do everything possible for her daughter, and I believe she did.
I think more than anything I've learned, no matter what I'm going through, it's not the worst of the worst. You can make it. And I think her positive attitude through everything was really what helped her fight, and what I've definitely learned from that whole situation.
Notre Dame is a family. And when you're part of it, you totally understand that. And I think you feel that the most when things are hard. Because I think the people make Notre Dame, Notre Dame. And you're never alone.
So that, guys, as you all understand, that is why this is such an important thing for Coach Gumpf. It's not just, hey, pick a charity and let's go support a charity, right? Which is great. I mean, anytime you're able to help people and use your platform to help people, love it. It's wonderful. But then there's the personal side. And I wanted to play that video for you all so you can understand why Coach Gumpf does this and why it means so much to her and why it's such a thing that they build so much around. So, got a super chat from Tom Connor. Tom, thank you so much for that. Appreciate you very, 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 very much. Iden Benami with a super chat. He says, Brian, how in the heck do you remember all the stats, players, and more specifically the exact plays from games years ago? It's crazy how you spit some of that info out for us. I asked myself, how did he remember that? Well, number one is I've been very blessed that that's just something that I've always been kind of able to be good at. Even as a kid, I can still remember things that happened when I was a kid. And sometimes, though, I mean, it's not always just from my head. I mean, I'll do research for a show, but then also as I'm talking, something will pop in my head that, hey, I remember this happening then or something around that. And then I can quickly look it up and be like, yep, that was right. And here's the exact number. So it's partly, it's partly kind of up here. It's also partly research, and it's also partly just kind of knowing where the research is from, right? I mean, that's a big part of it too. And I'll be honest, like I've always kind of had that, and I love the game. I've been studying the game, and I've always been a stats guy. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd sit at home with my 3-ring binder and my loose leaf paper, and I'm listening to Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall doing Reds games on 700 WLW, and I'm taking stats, right? And I would calculate and tabulate the stats and all that. This is a 10-year-old kid, so I've always been kind of a nerd when it came to that. But the other thing that helped me too was working with Loose Emoji. It was such a challenge for me to, I'd never really been around someone that I'm like, this guy's way smarter than me. I'd never, or at least I've been around people that were smarter than me, but I've never been around someone in like this vocation that I felt like, wow, this guy knows more than I do. And it's so obvious. And so that was something too that was really awesome and such a great experience to be around someone who was so brilliant and so talented and but also so humble. And I think that sharpened me as well, right? And made me better, made me even better. I will always say that working with Lou, even though it was for a short period of time, was such a 4 years, I think, was such a wonderful opportunity for me to just be around greatness and as a human being, but also just knowledge and it was always a challenge to say, hey, if I'm gonna do this show with Lou, I got to be on top of my game, and I think that helped me with that as well. So thank you for that very much. Brian O'Donnell with a super chat. Thanks to two great people for that interview. God bless. Appreciate you, Brian, very, very, very much. So just that's going to do it. So we don't have any other questions or super chats. That's going to do it. Just a couple things here real quick, folks. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Notre Dame softball team has a 3-game series against Virginia. This is 2 red-hot teams. Virginia, I think, has won 9 of their last 10. Notre Dame has won 13 out of 14. Friday night game is at 5 p.m. Saturday is at 1 o'clock. And then Sunday's game, which is when a lot of the home run derby is going to happen afterwards, that game is at noon. So you're going to want to check that out at noon on Sunday. Also, if you are in town if you're coming in town for the blue gold game, the ladies, the softball team has a game at 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon. And then on Sunday, they have a game at 6 p.m. So they'll be at home that weekend of the Notre Dame blue gold game. And if you have not watched this team play, I'm telling y'all, they're fun to watch. They really are. I love Coach Gump's program. I grew up with an appreciation for softball because, my dad played it as a kid, but more so my sister was such a great softball player. And so it was fun watching her play, and it's so different. She says it's like baseball in the fundamentals are, but it's definitely a different game, and it's a fun game. It's like there's a lot different between baseball and softball than there is between men and women's basketball. It's really a fun sport to watch, and if you've never watched it, and if you love baseball, I really think you'd enjoy softball. But if you're in town, get out this weekend to see Notre Dame play Virginia again Friday night, 5 p.m. at Melissa Cook Stadium. On Saturday, they play at 1 p.m. On Sunday, they play at 12 p.m. That will be when they're having everything. And as I said, a reminder, blue and gold game weekend, Friday, 5 o'clock game at Melissa Cook Stadium. Sunday, a 6 o'clock game at Melissa Cook Stadium. The Irish will be playing then as well. So definitely check that out. Got a couple quick more super chats. Iden Benami didn't realize Riley is much bigger looking than the other quarterbacks. F cancer. Definitely agree with the last part for sure. Yeah, he's at least an inch taller than inch and a half taller than CJ, who's the next tallest quarterback. And he's a pretty good sized kid. He's a very good sized kid. And Presley Laypath with a super chat as well. Thank you for that. And all these super chats, just so you all know, all these super chats are going to go directly to the to what the softball team is doing. We already gave an Irish Breakdown donation. I'm going to give another one with what we get from all these super chats. So I appreciate you. I know a lot of you gave directly to the donation or to the the Strikeout Cancer page, which is awesome. I see like Nathan Milton and a couple other people have already done that. I really appreciate y'all. Jason Smith gave directly to them as well. Really appreciate that. The nice thing about that is Google doesn't get a cut out of that. So that is a great that you guys did that. So I greatly, greatly appreciate y'all very much for that. So Tyler Robinson with a super chat for everyone fighting against cancer. Absolutely. And I believe that we do it with all the tools that we have in our toolbox. Obviously, our time, if we're able and willing to give our time, do it with our money, if we're willing and able to do it with our money. But as you all know, I'm also a man that believes in the power of prayer. And so that is a big part of it as well. So if you are watching this later, you can always go to the Strikeout Cancer website, which is in the description box below. It's also linked in the chat, and you can give and support in any way you can. We appreciate y'all very, very much for what you did. I appreciate y'all that were part of the show today, and look forward to being back with you all again tomorrow. So we'll be back at 1 p.m. tomorrow for a Notre Dame recruiting hour. Look forward to that. And then, of course, we'll be back next Monday for another mailbag. So thank you all so much for being with us. I want to thank Coach Gump for joining the show today. I want to thank everybody that actually gave and helped us raise money for today's fundraiser. So I want to thank you all very much for that. So that's going to do it for today's show, everybody. We don't have any other questions or super chats. So enjoy your day. Y'all take care, and we'll see you again here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.